Hello guys and welcome back. In this second video we're going to be talking about stress and the effects of stress on the immune system. So what is stress? How would you define it? Difficult to define, isn't it? But based on the NHS way of describing it, it's a feeling of being under pressure, whether that's physical pressure, emotional pressure or mental pressure. It can also be defined as the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. But in summary, look, stress reduces our immune system's ability to fight infections and disease, and hence we are more susceptible to infections. Our stress hormone cortisol is increased, and this is known to suppress our immune system. And there's been countless medical trials, and there's thousands of papers, clinical research papers on the subject. Now, if you were to describe stress and classify it, the best way of classifying stress, as there's many different causes, is based on the time frame that stress is there. So we can divide it into five principal time frames. The acute limited time. So this is something like public speaking or asking that person out that you like. For short-term stress, we're talking hours or even potentially minutes. Then we've got your sort of brief natural stresses, and this can be anything like preparing for exams or having an argument with someone. Number three is our stressful event sequences like divorce or annual job reviews, things like that, which last weeks, potentially months. Then we have our chronic stressors. So chronic stressors are things like physical disabilities or long-term unemployment, and this is things that lead to a person changing their life. And finally, we have distant stressors, things from our distant past which are traumatic. Typically, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder or prisoner of war nightmares. These have long-term cognitive and emotional impacts on ourselves and also our immune system. So how do these things affect our immune system? Well, to understand that, we need to define the different aspects of our immune system. And broadly, we can classify our immune system as the natural and non-specific response and the specific response. So if we're talking about the natural response, every day there are millions and millions of potential infections and pathogens in the air and all around us. And we have a fantastic surveillance system which goes around the body almost like a police of our body. And these include things like white cells, which are just going around recognizing potential infections and destroying them before they can destroy us, quite frankly. We've also got those kind of like surveillance cells which literally alert these police cells to potential infections. Then we move, that's broadly the natural immune system. Then we move on to the specific immunity, and this is things like your antibodies, but also specific markers for a specific type of infection. So if there's a particular flu virus, for example, we develop antibodies to them, but we also develop specific marker cells, again, which flag them up and allow us to destroy them. Now, how are these things affected with stress? So in the short term, if we've got that acute stressor, for example, public speaking or asking that person out, our surveillance immune system, our natural immunity, goes up, and we're actually at an exaggerated immune system response for a short period of time, meaning the chances of infection are completely minimized. It's a good thing, but it's very short term. This continues to those brief natural stresses like exams or arguments, but as those timeframes get longer and longer and turn into things like divorce proceedings or job reviews, which can last weeks or months of preparation, if you ever notice that you may get the odd cough or cold, and that's because the surveillance system actually dampens down, it kind of gets knackered out. At the same time though, if we did catch a particular cough or cold very early on, our specific immune system starts to kick in at this point. So perversely, if we had a response to a specific pathogen, we probably would be getting better by this time. But as we go towards more long-term things like physical disabilities and obviously those distant stressors, not only does our surveillance system drop, but also that specific response, if we haven't already got it, it drops. And this is where we really get susceptible. So simple things like common coughs or colds can become quite dangerous and cause systemic problems. Furthermore, we can be susceptible to carcinogenic, that's cancer causing things. So very important to bear that in mind. and understand this as we're going through our daily life. And so, can we protect ourselves against this? Well, it's important that we understand when we're under stress. Ideally, trying to get rid of the stressor. I understand that's not always possible, but there are things we can do in our everyday life to make sure we're as stress free as possible. And this includes things like exercise every day, possible breathing exercises, making sure we use supplements in a diet such as turmeric, ginger, to really boost our surveillance system, our natural immunity, to reduce the chances of infections being caught. And then ultimately, we've got the Q Aqua immunity, which is just does everything from the natural immune response as well as our specific immune response. But above all, I want you to understand, look, with regards to stress, it is a very personal thing, and everyone responds differently to it. And moreover, everyone has different ways of coping with stress. We have to have a sense of equanimity within ourselves and understand what works for us with regards to a stress response. Some people may respond to exercise, some people may respond to meditation, even mediation. Just talking about it may help relieve it for some people. Very important, but equally there are those generic things we can do, such as those dietary supplementations, hydrating ourselves, making sure we're doing our breathing exercise, and using Q Aqua immunity. So that's stress in a nutshell. Very poorly understood and very poorly managed. I hope after this talk you get a better understanding exactly what stress is, how we can understand we have it, and moreover how we can understand how to treat it.